ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। So we have covered this section which spoke about how the sense objects are a trap, and how the 82nd verse that we saw said that if a person really wants moksha, mokshasya kangsha yadi vai tavasti, yajati durat vishayan visham yatha. One should abandon the sense objects as though they are poison. And then what should one do? Cultivate the noble virtues. Piyushavat toshadana samarjavam. Prashanti dantir bhaja nityam adarat. Cultivate all these qualities constantly. Shama, daya, tosha, that is contentment, arjava, straightforwardness. So different qualities one cultivates in this way. Then the next section, we had stopped at 83. The next section is about the fascination for the body. So the 83rd verse which said, Anukshanam yat parihritya kritya krityam anadi avidya krita bandha mokshanam deha parartho yam amushya poshane yas sajjate saswamanena hanti. So this body given to us for the sake of realizing the absolute truth, and one who is not using it to liberate oneself from this bondage caused by this beginningless ignorance, anadi avidya krita bandha mokshanam, but is constantly nourishing this body identification, that person is actually destroying oneself. Suicide, this is called as that suicide. So the idea here is the cause of bondage is this body identification, and Vivek Chudamani heavily comes down on the fascination for the body. This particular section is for that. The same chain of thought continues ahead, where he says, 84th verse, Sharira poshanarthi san atmanam didrakshati graham darudhiya dhritva nadim tartum sagachati. So here he says, Sharira poshanarthi san, one who is constantly feeding this fascination for the body. See, the word poshana here doesn't mean nourishment. Nourishment of the body one has to do. One has to take care of the body. But as a tool. Here the context is Sharira poshanarthi san is one who is constantly pampering the body. Sharira poshanarthi san ya atmanam didrakshati, one who has a desire to see the self. Meaning there is a contrary behavior. The self which illumines the body, which enlivens the body, can be realized only when we go beyond body identification. But when we behave in the opposite way, for some time during the day, when we are reflecting, meditating, we think about I am Brahman, I am not the body. But through the day, the whole time the pampering of the body is happening. Then the analogy given here is, like a person who wants to cross the river holding on to a shark, graham, darudhiya dhritva. He thinks in his intellect, dhiya, that this is the log of wood. That holding on to this log of wood, he is thinking that actually I am holding on to a log of wood and he wants to cross the river, but actually he is holding on to a shark. What will happen? The shark will eat him up. He can't cross the river. In the same way, it is that this body body identification as though is like the shark. Holding on to this idea that I am the body and realizing the self is not possible. One has to leave. One has to drop that body identification. Not pamper the body. Just take the basic care of the body. Rest of the time, focus on the clarity that I am Brahman. I am pure consciousness. So this analogy is a very powerful analogy, because how foolish it seems that when we try to cross the river holding on to a shark, nobody would even think of that. But the shark, when it is just floating, may look like a piece of wood that is floating. And one may, while one is drowning or trying to cross the river, may hold on to that. In this ocean of samsara, we are holding on to this body. Continuous change happening all over us. We are holding on to this one body, thinking I am this, and with this we want to cross that ocean. This body identification will ensure that we get destroyed, in the sense that we will not be able to realize that self. This is the main obstacle. And hence it is a call for a seeker to correct the attitude through the day also. So that's why Gurudev used to say our religion is not a weekly religion. It is 24/7 we have to live. Whole day as a seeker. So what is it that I am doing that will increase the body identification? Those factors one has to identify. Eliminate those factors. Hence tapas, upvas, vrata, yatra, japa, so many spiritual practices are given for a Vedantic student. It is to reduce the body identification, to purify the mind. Some others may think it is to generate punya karma, to go to heaven. For Vedantic student, it is to reduce the body identification. How much one thinks, how do I know whether my body identification is reducing or not reducing? So earlier, anything happening to the body, one would get very deeply affected by it. Now, anything happens to the body, one does what is the remedy, what one needs to do, but one is not affected by it. One treats it as an equipment. One aspect. Second aspect, for the sadhana purpose, whatever one has to do to ensure that the body is fit and fine, so that I can do uninterrupted sadhana, one will do that. Meaning, simple example, one will eat food which is sattvic, which will help the body to retain the sattvic mood, not excite the body, not make the body indulgent, not make it lazy, lethargic. So the food one will eat according to that, not for the taste but for sadhana. So the taking care of the body, one will sleep adequate, one will eat adequate, one will exercise adequate, all that one will do with this attitude that this body must be taken care of as a tool for sadhana. Number 3, in that state of meditation, the person is able to rise above body identification much more easily and be steady in the contemplation on the self. So when one says, in the Nirvana Shatkam, when it is said, Nava Sapta Dhatur, Nava Pancha Koshaha, Nava Pani Padau, Nachopastha Payu, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. One is able to negate with more and more conviction that yes, I am not the body, body is a tool. I am pure consciousness. And the mind doesn't feel that, oh, this is something very subtle, can't identify with this. Because one has studied, one has got the clarity, one has made the changes in the daily life. So likes and dislikes at the body level reduce completely. One lives more in sense control, one lives more in tune with what is good for the body to maintain it as a tool. Few pointers to ensure that our body identification comes down. The more tapas one does to get out of body identification, one also sees that tremendous amount of energy is conserved in the body. Because one is not dissipating the energies through the body, one is taking in more sattvic inputs, one is maintaining the body properly through all the medium like food, sleep, exercise, training the senses, all of these. If we do that, it is called FEST, F-E-S-T, just a acronym to remember: food, exercise, sleep, training the senses. Then the body will be like there will be a celebration as though, because I'm using the body for the right purpose. Otherwise, the body will be like a pest, constantly nagging us, constantly there is difficulties, there are diseases, there are problems, low energy, mind is not very alert. So many things happen, which is what they said earlier was, that is the suicide. So body can be used for this. So there is a lot of energy conserved when there is tapas which is done. Like a simple example, even at the level of food, when we eat the right quantity, the right quality of food, there is tremendous energy in the body. But when we don't eat the right quantity, right quality, right time, then the body goes haywire. Energies in the body, they also fluctuate. That's just one example. Same way with other senses. In that way, when we ensure that the body is taken care of, but no more pampering of the body, the need of the body. Now one may say that what is the need today for a person can be actually a luxury for another person. Simple example, an AC can be a luxury for some people, cannot afford it. For some people, it is a need. How do we know whether it is pampering of the body or not? So the question to ask is, without this, what will happen to me? Many times there is a psychological dependency, which is what one has to get out of. If it is there, fine. If it is not there, fine. That attitude is called wow, with or without. We have done this earlier. So if a person is able to figure out that is this the need of the body or this is a comfort or the luxury for the body, without this, what would be my condition? Like food is a need for the body. Without that, the body will not survive. That we cannot call as a luxury. Basic food is a necessity. But exotic food is a luxury. In that same way for different other comforts. 6 hours of sleep, 7 hours of sleep, necessity. 10 hours, 11 hours, laziness. Again, depends. I'm talking about a healthy body. Somebody has any difficulties, then one may require more rest. That is a different matter. So what is a need and what is a luxury? It depends always on the definition of my goal. What is the goal that I want to reach? If I want to discover Brahman, if this is the goal, then the body has to be just taken care of basically. It doesn't need anything extraordinary. In fact, the more one trains the body to live with minimum comfort, the body adjusts also. Like Tapan Maharaj, he lived in such austerity. Even when he was sick, he used to try and sit erect, not take the support of a pillow or anything. So, how much austerity we want to do, that depends on us. There should not be the extremes, that complete indulgence is one extreme And absolute torture of the body is another extreme, where one goes on actually tormenting the body, thinking that this will help me to get out of the attachment to the body. Bhagavan calls that actually as a tamasic tapas. In the 17th chapter of the Gita, he says, Karshayanta sharirastham bhutagramam achetasaha rakshasi masurim chaiva. Bhutagramam achetasaha. Yeah. So where he says that those who torture their body, whom are they actually torturing? Mamchaivanta sharirastham. They are torturing me who is indwelling in the body. So the torture of the body is not said, nor is it that indulgence has to be done. What is the balance where one just adequately takes care of the body with what basic things are required and focuses on the sadhana. So each area of one's life, whether it is food, whether it is sleep, whether it is sense management, exercise, recreation, enjoyment, one has to identify, are these in the adequate measure or are they in excess, or are they leading to more body identification, which make me feel more and more associated that I am this body. So this section is for that. Now this example is to ensure that this is a shocking example, that we are holding on to the shark crossing the ocean, crossing the river, thinking it is a log of wood. Same way, thinking I am this body, trying to realize God, it is not possible. Trying to realize the self is not possible. So I have to drop. This is called actually sannyas is this. Dropping body identification, dropping doership, that is called actually sannyas, renunciation. So when they say tyage naike amritatva manashuhu, this is the tyaga of this. Now the Upanishad quote is used here in the next verse. Moha eva maha mrityuhu mumukshor vapuradishu moho vinirjito yena samukti padam arhati. So here he says that moha eva maha mrityuhu, delusion is great death. For whom? For a person desiring liberation. Mumukshoho. Vapuradishu. So which type of delusion is referred to here? Not the delusion of money or power or position or pleasure. The delusion that I am this body. Vapuradishu. I am this body, the world is real. These are the two fundamental delusions. Dehatma Bhav and Jagati Satya Buddhi. These are two fundamental delusions that are there, which one has to overcome. So he says, Moho vinirjito yena. This delusion, whoever has overcome, samukti padam arhati. That person deserves the state of liberation. So there are levels of moha also. This is the deepest level of moha, the body identification. As soon as we get up from that time, this body identification, that moha remains, that I am this. Till we go to sleep and we withdraw the attention. But the jiva who is functioning through this, that identification still remains. So in the dream, there are different experiences one goes through. In the deep sleep, the body and the mind, they are dormant, but ignorance is there. So even when one wakes up, again one is the same entity. One has not got knowledge. So this body identification is a much deeper level of moha. To come to that moha, the other levels of moha one has to remove. Which is why Bhajagovindam, one of the names of Bhajagovindam is Moha Mudgara. Mudgara means to destroy. Moha means the delusion. So all the other delusions that one has about money being the source of security and status, or people that they will always be with me, any such notion that I am a very young person, very powerful person. So many types of delusions may be there. Where one, moha literally means what? To see something as opposite. The word moha comes from the root muh. Muh means vaichitya, to see something and not as it is, but something else. Not to see the rope as rope, but to see it as a snake. Moha. So in that way, different levels of moha when we get over, then the moha for the body goes. Without getting over moha for sense objects, for certain types of enjoyments, for certain people, for certain situations, body identification cannot go. And so it is moha eva. In fact, not only it will not go, it is called here as a mrityu. Moha eva maha mrityu. So these are the verses for an uttam adhikari, because the word again used here is mumukshu. One who has done the homework, one who has done sufficient cleansing, and one really wants liberation. Body identification can come back in so many ways. So the seeker must be very, very alert. Moho vinirjito yena. That I am not the body. Come what may. The body identification can come back by making one feel very strong and powerful at the physical level, or by making one feel very sick and weak, or by making one crave for more and more sense enjoyment. So enjoyment of the body is my enjoyment. So there are so many ways in which this moha comes. The seeker has to be so careful and so alert. Senses can be tempting us. Body may be craving for certain type of enjoyment. Certain laziness can come. So in that way, the attachment to the body can come to a seeker in various forms. How the seeker is alert and how the seeker lives in tapas, lives in more and more self-control, that is the sadhana for the seeker. So moha eva mahamrityu mumukshur vapuradishu moho vinirjito yena. How to get over this moha? All the other sadhanas. Bhajagovindam, reflection, self-control, and then finally through contemplation. The final victory that I am this body goes only when it happens only when this notion goes, that I am this body. How that notion will go? Through contemplation. And hence here it is that moha is actually called as death, because the Upanishads actually say person goes from death to death. Mrityo sa mrityum apnoti. From death to death a person goes, not from birth to birth. Whoever sees the differences, whoever sees that I am different, world is different, God is different, that person is attached more and more to the body, keeps taking more and more bodies. But the Upanishad does not say goes from one birth to another birth. The Upanishad says goes from death to death, because moha is death. Every minute I am dying. I am not seeing the truth. Getting carried away by something false and building the whole life based on this. When Ramana Maharshi understood that he is not the body, lying down in his room on the first floor, the fear of death overpowered him, and he actually wanted to see, okay, let me see what happens at this time of death. So it is said that he could see his body lying down there, as though from the top he's seeing that body is lying there, but I am not dead. I still feel the full force of my presence and my personality. I am. That means I am completely different from the body. So far I thought only I am this body. The only identity I had was I am this body. When he saw that the body is lying there, but I am something else and I have not got destroyed, that distinction happened, that I am not the body, I am something else which is imperishable. That experience completely changed his perception. That was a glimpse that he got. And then rest of the life he spent to realize this truth, and he got established in this truth. So that is called moha vinirjito yena. That person has won over moha, has clearly understood oneself and established in the Satchidananda Swarup Atma, and that I am not this body, mind, intellect at all. Hence this is called as moha eva mahamrityu. So to start winning over moha, one has to first identify what are the delusions that one has. What are the false notions that one has? Now, how will we even know that this is delusion and this is not the truth? Person who sees the snake thinks that the snake is real. Now, there is no parameter for that person to even understand whether the snake is real or not, which is why satsang and the shastra is required. The whole world will tell us that this is the way to live. Happiness is in the world outside. Eat this, drink that, go here, do this, do that. What is the benchmark? How do I know this is real or this is moha? Which is why the shastra is required. When a person starts studying the scripture and starts understanding the logic, starts understanding the main purpose of human life, all this what we are studying, against that backdrop, against the book like Bhaj Govindam, Vairagya Shatakam, when one actually measures, okay, what is the life? The lives of so many great kings, big achievers, and some of them in Bhagavad and some of these Puranas that we have, how they have achieved everything, but finally left all that and gone to realize the self. The real person who is victorious in life, in the mission of life, is a person who has overcome body identification. Not somebody who has won great wars outside. That is just one type of victory. The deeper victory is over moha, over ego, over ignorance. So, one aspect to reduce moha, tapas is very, very important. To eliminate moha, jnana is very, very important. Without tapas, the mind will not have chitta shuddhi for jnana. Moha can go only with jnana, because moha is an expression of ajnana, avidya. When I don't know, then I delude myself to think something else. So when I don't see the rope, that non-apprehension is called ignorance. But the projection of the rope as a snake, that this is a snake, that is called the misapprehension. The misapprehension is the moha, is delusion. So avidya and moha. The cause of moha is avidya, ignorance. So how to win over moha? Reduce the moha through tapas, eliminate the moha through ajnana, through jnana, through proper contemplation. See clearly that I am not the body, I am pure consciousness, moha is gone. But to see clearly, the mind must be ready. For that, all the tapas one has to do. This first half of this expression, moha eva mahamrityu, it's what does moha destroy? It destroys the seeking. It destroys the enthusiasm to walk this path, to live in self-control. So in different ways, moha will manifest. Before the seeking has started, moha is deeply there, which one is not even aware of. That is called achetan avastha, where one is not even aware that there is something called higher. One is just fully drowned in body identification, in enjoyment, in indulgence, in even wrong and corrupt ways to live a more comfortable lifestyle. One is not even bothered. That is the achetan avastha, where the mind is so dull, is not awakened at all to higher possibilities. One's own punya, some experiences in life, positive, negative, the seeker awakens. One starts seeking what is the higher purpose in life? What am I doing? And when one starts walking the path, Then the different types of moha which are already there, which have one has cultivated for so long, they also are not easy to drop, which is why that tapas is required. More and more one tries to live in tapas, more and more the attachment overpowers. So it seems for the seeker as though it is a very difficult journey which is almost impossible to cross. But when a person walks sincerely, it's a matter of time, one will overcome different moha. But the journey is never smooth. It has lots of ups and downs. And so when we say moha eva mahamrityu, a simple example, if one says that every morning I will meditate, one knows what is the importance, what is required for regularity, sincerity, all that. One has taken, willpower, one has taken a sankalp also, one has gone for a camp, got inspired, learned the methods of meditation, experienced some benefit. So one has taken a resolve that I will do it. Now this resolve, this sankalpa shakti, when one comes back, when one starts doing practice, if one falls as a victim to moha, after a few days, this sincerity, this deep desire to be regular, slowly the attachment to the body, comfort, sleep, anything, extra overworking, getting exhausted, all that, what it does, it destroys the sincerity, regularity, which is the mrityu. For a seeker, that is a death. Again, one has to pull oneself up, again get inspired. The death of inspiration, the death of determination is very, very harmful for the seeker. Because inspiration, if it is not there to seek the Supreme, one will fall down, which is what happens. So death of inspiration and death of determination. Determination to sustain that inspiration and walk. These two will die. And again, the more person is into indulgence, again into wrong methods. And the sad thing is now one knows that, this is wrong. But the moha is so powerful and the seeker has given into that moha. So one feels guilt. So the third thing that is destroyed by moha is my own peace of mind and conflict-free mind gone. That mind becomes so heavy. One falls in one's own eyes, which is why Bhagavan says, Uddhared Atmana Atmanam Na Atmanam Avasadayet. Lift yourself by yourself, don't condemn yourself. What does that mean? Why will I condemn myself? When I have fallen, when I have done something which is wrong, which I know, and I have fallen in my own eyes, that's why I will condemn myself. What a weakling you are. You know all this is not to be done. Still you are doing this. How will you reach your goal? The one part of the mind will go on pricking. So the mind which was conflict free, in Vedantic terminology we call it as a ayukta, disintegrated mind. Ayukta kama karena phale sakto nibadhyate. Ayukta is overpowered by desire, expression of moha, gets attached to some particular result and bound and falls. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva shantim apnoti naishtikim. But a person who is integrated, who has a conflict-free mind, that person shantim apnoti, experiences supreme peace. So this is very, very important for a seeker to preserve. Our inspiration, our determination, our conflict-free mind, these have to be preserved. Because only with such a mind, I can contemplate steadily and I can gain knowledge, even understand the scriptures. Otherwise, I will fall in my own eyes. A very nice saying I read somewhere. It said that if our actions don't conform to our values will fall to the level of our actions. If our actions don't conform to our values will fall to the level of our action. Meaning, if I don't live uncompromisingly the values and the higher way of life, example, again, same example. Suppose I know I have diabetes and I can't eat sugar. Now, action level, I am not able to live up to that self-control as a value. I eat. First few times there may be even a guilt. But after a few times that guilt also will not be there, because now my value for self-control would have fallen to my action level, because the thought will be, how does it matter? Anyway, one has to die. Life is anyway short. Why not just do what one wants to do? Just enjoy. Forget all this self-control and all that. So now the value of self-control is gone. So my value has fallen to the level of compromise at my action level. But if I had not done that, if I had struggled and I would have said, no, nothing doing, I am not going to indulge in this, then I have lived up at the value level. Then the seeking continues. So the fourth thing that dies when we compromise is the seeking itself. Moha eva mahamrityu means the body, the delusion will destroy this very attitude that I am a seeker. And all this happens very systematically. It goes. Inspiration goes, determination goes, conflict-free mind goes, seeking goes. Moksha is postponed by us because of this moha only. This is why he says moha eva mahamrityu. Because moha will bind me more and more to the body identification. Like how the camphor, in the case of camphor, when we are doing the arati, so when let us say when the arati is being done, there is only one camphor. As the camphor keeps burning, last few moments which are there, there is no camphor there, but the fire is still on. To sustain that arati, what we will do? Add little more camphor to it. In the case of arati, it is a functional thing that we are doing. But as a symbolic gesture, if we think about it, that is what is happening in our daily life. Body identification goes, we are trying to get out of body identification and realize the truth. So through self-control, through contemplation, etc., body identification reduces. It can get eliminated and one can realize the truth. But in between, suddenly some extra doses are put. Some indulgence, some attachment, some temptation. So one is again feeding that. Again that fire continues. Again that sustenance of moha happens, which is beautifully depicted when Bhagavan did that Leela with the gopis. Gurudev gives such a nice explanation to that when the gopis are taking bath, Bhagavan comes and steals their clothes. Now people think that what kind of a God is this? But remember, Bhagavan was only 6 years old and he was a child there. There was no intention of any lust or any such thing. It's a very powerful depiction of what happens in a seeker's life. So every day when we go into the meditation room, we drop all the body identification, we try to contemplate. But when we come out of that, we again pick it up. But a seeker who tries to live steadily with devotion, with proper self-control, as one does this regular meditation, contemplation, self-control, one day happens where Bhagavan just steals away the clothes. The whole body identification gone. Suddenly one realizes, I am that Brahman, I am pure consciousness. Suddenly meaning it's not an event, it is a proper clarity that dawns regularly as one destroys the body identification. But that is called moha vinirjito. That is, the moha has been won over, that I am not the body at all. So this one has to be very alert. This moha eva mahamrityu is a very, very powerful expression because it destroys. It destroys the punya karma also. It destroys the sadhana phala also. In our stories, all this is depicted so nicely. So Vishwamitra did lot of tapas. And Trishanku, he wanted to go to heaven. But he wanted to go to heaven with a body. And that is not possible. One has to drop the body and then the astral body goes. This physical body cannot go there. So this Trishanku, he came to Vishwamitra. And Vishwamitra had an enmity against this Indra because Indra had sent Menaka. So Vishwamitra wanted to show him what is his power and his tapas. So Vishwamitra used up all his tapas to create a heaven, which is between earth and the heaven. They call Trishangu Swarga. So he is not in earth, he is not in the actual heaven, he is in his own Swarga. Trishanku, for him, Vishwamitra created a different Swarga. All the power of tapas went in that. And as long as his tapobal was there, Trishanku was there. After that, down. Vishwamitra also realized, what did I do? These are stories we have heard from childhood, but Vedantically these are the implications that moha destroys the seeking, the tapobal, the sadhana bal, the goodness in us, the sattva guna in us. And hence a seeker must be very alert. Am I being a prey to moha? That's the alertness. When the Upanishad says that walk the razor's edge, it is a very sharp edge. One has to walk the path. Nishita duratyaya. Durgam pathastat kavayo vadanti. It is a very difficult path to tread. Because one requires to be so alert every moment against one's own mind's tricks. It's not outside somebody tricking us. It's our own mind taking us for granted. And one falls for it. So this expression, moha eva mahamrityuhu, for a seeker, this is to be cautious, to be alert every moment. It is not to threaten or to make the seeker feel scared. Mumukshur vapuradishu moho vinirjito yena samukti padam arhati. This thought continues in the next one. Moham jahi mahamrityum dehadara sutadishu yam jitva munayo yanti tadvishno paramam padam. So what we spoke earlier, the levels of moha, they are explained here. Moham jahi, meaning one has to drop, one has to renounce. Mahamrityum, what was said earlier, the great death. Moha towards what? Deha, that I am this body. Dara, the wife. Suta, child. Adishu. So this expression, Dehadara Sutadishu, is symbolic of these three things. One is the body identification, means my identity. Dara means all those on whom I depend. And Suta means all those who depend on me. So the three sources of moha are these. One is I am this body, that is the cause, the root cause is I am this body. So Deha. Dara is all those on whom I depend. It can be not just person, it can be anything. Object, person, habit, situation, anything on which I depend. Why is that moha? We are talking about psychological dependency, not a functional dependency. A functional dependency is just a convenience, transactional convenience. Like one has servants at home, one depends on them to get some work done. That's a functional dependency, but it can turn into psychological dependency. So here when it said Dara, it means all those on whom one depends psychologically, thinking that happiness is in this. And Sutta means all those who depend on oneself. Now why should I bother about that? That is their moha. No, but the notion here is that without me, they cannot do anything. That is the dependency. That is the moha in my head. That without me, how will my children get taken care of? Without me, who will manage the work? Without me, how will this thing happen? And no doubt a certain concern is natural and one must, it is not talking about escapism. But a lot of times we do many things giving the excuses about others. Like, why am I not able to do sadhana? Because I have to fend for my family in a particular way, provide them particular comfort in particular status. And for that I have to work so much hard. I can't do my sadhana. Now that is the moha. Not that I should not do my duty, but not going overboard in an extreme where one has forgotten one's own spiritual evolution and growth. Each one has anyway come with their own karma, their life will be taken care of. Even if we are not there, their life will go on because they have their own karma. So what best we can do, we must do with balance, is what our Shastra always says. I forget the whole Sanskrit shloka, but it is said, for the sake of the family, an individual has to be sacrificed. For the sake of the community, the family has to be sacrificed. For the sake of the country, the whole community can be sacrificed. But for the sake of the Atma, the whole world can be sacrificed. Sacrificed in the sense, the priority order. Yeah, so, right. So that is the shloka there. So when a person is able to understand this very clearly, that this human body is got for this particular sake, to realize the truth, and that one ignores, mind will always give these justifications. Many times it gives justifications even when one is walking the full-time spiritual path. I am doing service of the society, so I am not able to get time for contemplation. This work, that project, this meeting. From Vedantic standpoint, the seeker is told, overcome this. Moham jahi mahamrityum deha dara sutadishu. All those who depend on you, whatever is the functional dependency, what I have to do as a role, as a duty, I have to do, but not at the cost of contemplation and spiritual clarity and knowledge. So one has to prioritize it according to that. So deha dara sutadishu. Yam jitva munayo yanti tad vishnu paramam padam. And having conquered this moha, they experience that supreme state, tad vishnoho paramam padam. Vishnu is one who is all pervasive, vyapakatvat Vishnu. So that all pervasive reality one comes to experience when one drops the attachment to the body, to all those who depend on him and all those on whom he or she depends. Yam jitva munayo yanti deha dara sutadishu. And the word, another word, beautiful word used here is muni. Yam jitva munayo yanti. Muni means, very nice meanings the word muni has. Generally when we say muni, we think of somebody who has one jata, Kamandal, who is living a renunciate life, sitting below a tree, Muni. Etymological meaning of the word Muni. So that is one possibility, that kind of a life, of basically of withdrawal and of tapas and sense control. So the deeper etymological meaning of Muni is Manana Shilavan. First meaning is that one who is using his intellect to reflect, to discriminate clearly, and to abide by the higher discrimination. So Manana Shilavan, who constantly reflects upon the reality. Muni. Second, Maunam. Munehe. One who has attained silence. The mind has become quiet. Munehe bhavam maunam. The bhava of the Muni is maunam, is quiet. The mind is not disturbed. What we just spoke about, the mind is free from conflict, free from guilt, sustains inspiration. So inspiration, determination, all these a person has sustained. And hence that mind of that person is free from conflicts of the world, conflicts bothering the mind because of one's own wrong deeds. None of that. The mind is peaceful, quiet, and both these go hand in hand. You know, beautiful verse in the second chapter of the Gita says that Nasti buddhir ayuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shanti ashantasya kuta sukham. When a person is not integrated, when a person believes something and does something else, I know I am not the body, but I behave as though I am the body. Then there is no integration, there is no integrity in that person. What happens? Nasti buddhira yuktasya. The buddhi, the inspiration is not available to that person. If that inspiration is not available, the mind is not calm. Nacha yuktasya bhavana. The mind is, the person is not able to steadily contemplate. So this reflection that we spoke about as a Muni, one should reflect, that will not happen. Nasti buddhira yuktasya, nacha yuktasya bhavana. Both are not there. Neither thinking is there properly, nor contemplation is there. If both is not happening, nacha bhavayata shanti, the peace of mind and absolute peace, to forget it, it is not going to be attained at all. Ashantasya kuta sukham. How will the person who is not happy, not peaceful, be happy? So a Muni means both. Muni means one whose mind is peaceful, one whose intellect is reflective, constantly thinking about the goal. And that is how moha is removed. Now that concludes this section, which is about fascination for the body. In Vivek Chudamani, this one section comes again and again, which is the gross body. We had seen this earlier also. Condemnation of the gross body, because the attachment is very powerful and deep. So again this section comes here. 87th verse. Tvang mamsa rudhirasnayu medo majjasti sankulam purnam mutra purishabhyam sthulam nindyam idam vapuhu. So the contents of the gross body are enlisted here. Tvak is the skin, mamsa is the flesh, rudhira is the blood, snayu is the blood vessels, then meda is the fat, majja, the marrow, asthi is the bones, sankulam, it is a composition of the body is made up of all these. Purnam, and it is filled with mutra purishabhyam, with urine and fecal matter. Sthulam, it is so gross. Nindyam idam vapuhu, this is to be condemned only. Now condemned meaning not to again destroy or torture the body, but this is what the body is made up of. So body identification, when we are getting so fascinated by our own body, the body of other people, the other beings, is actually filled with all these. And as we have discussed earlier, each individual element by itself, so if the body is made into all these separate things, no fascination will be there for us. We will not be fascinated by the body at all if individually each of them are brought out and segregated. It is Sankulam, it is together, and life is enlivening it, consciousness is enlivening it. So what we truly actually love is that consciousness which we don't know. We are loving that. We think that we love this particular body by itself. But by itself, we will not love if each individual element is removed, or even if it is together but life is gone. We may miss the entity, we may miss that person, but we will not have fascination for that body at all after that. In fact, that body will start decaying, so one will try to dispose it of as soon as possible. So this is to again and again think that what am I so fascinated by? How is a bundle of all these? First of all, how is all this bundle me? Because it's a byproduct of food. Second of all, that when all these things are put together, how is it that when individually I cannot like any of them, but when they are put together, I am liking it? Because it has a particular utility value, it has a particular capability, and I am getting carried away by that. So the delusion works because of lack of inquiry. Avichara krito bandha vicharena nivartate. The more and more I think about it clearly, to see something as it is, then the moha will go. So this time when he is speaking about body condemnation here, it is to help to overcome that body identification that was spoken earlier in that section. When moha was spoken about, heavily one said that one should not try to cross this ocean by holding on to this body. So what am I holding on to? How to destroy this deha bhav? These are the verses. Just to mentally do that, one can do that visualization, that meditation if one does. Just visualize mentally different parts of this body, they are segregated. Like all this, what is given here. Separate the skin, separate the flesh, separate the bone, separate the marrow, separate the blood, muscles. Suddenly one will see, what am I so fascinated by? When these come together and life is enlivening it, this has a special capability to see, hear, taste, smell, touch. That capability is what makes me feel I am this and I love this. But the fact is, each of them are just inert elements, and not only inert, they are nindyam. They are worth criticizing or condemning, because each of them by themselves are incapable of doing anything. 1 liter of blood, certain amount of flesh, what will that do by itself? It has no capability to enjoy anything or experience anything. How strange is that delusion? That when this body, all these parts are coming together, then there is some movement happening, some action happening, and food is converted into energy, and all this is happening inside this body. And when this life goes out of it, this body suddenly is dead. Nothing this body is capable of doing. So all the fascination, etc., was for what? If more and more one thinks about this, that what is the material cause of this objects also? When we are fascinated by some being or some object, we disintegrate it mentally, the fascination of it will go away. And so it is, these verses are given here so that the more and more one thinks about this, that the delusion is actually condemned. When they say here, Nindyam idam vapuhu, it is not body which is criticized. It is my wrong notion and this delusion that is criticized, that I am this. How can I be a bundle of this? And how this also appears to be. You know, the strange part of delusion is it makes one identify with a particular condition. Example, this body, when it is young, there is a lot of attraction and fascination to this body. But when it becomes old, when it starts withering away, that fascination which was there, that starts going. So what is the delusion? Flesh in a particular condition is what I am loving. I am not loving it as it is. In a particular condition I am loving it. That is delusion. That is moha. That's how one develops the complex. Oh, I am becoming old. So how does it matter? Body is becoming old. And it will become old. That's the nature of the flesh. That is the nature of the body. Every 7 years, the body is getting changed. Continuously, it is happening. Moment by moment, so many cells are dying. But we love the body in a particular way, in a particular condition. So many people go through so much of depression and image issues when they put on weight. It's a simple act. No doubt that one needs to be fit and fine and all that. Nobody is denying that. But how does the body make me feel less or more? If I develop 8-pack abs, I feel very powerful and great. If I put on some weight, I feel less and weak. It's a condition of the flesh. So condition of the body in a particular way is what we like. Attachment and moha works like that. We like a specific way only. We don't like the other ways. And whatever is the condition, whether it is young or old, this is the gross, this is the content of the body, and it is gross, and this body identification is what is condemned. So Nindyam idam vapuhu is to attack our moha, is to condemn our moha, that we like that body to be in a specific way. Now moha applies into many other things same way. Right now the example is for the body. The skin has to be in a particular way. You think about it. What kind of a delusion it is to think that people who have white skin are superior and people who have dark skin are inferior. How much of atrocities have happened in the world because of this delusion. Now, because one thinks like that, oh, this is more fascinating than this. Both are same, made up of same content. That the color, the pigmentation is different. That's all. But the body is, but the attachment and the delusion is such, it makes that person prefer one, reject the other. That is what is condemned. And the body of all the living beings actually is made up of this only. 5 elements. So we love that 5 elements in a particular way, in a particular condition, in a particular manner in which it is presented. We don't love it for itself. If the body becomes what we call useless, in what sense? There is a terminal disease or there is a, let us say, a paralysis that has happened. Full body is paralyzed. So many times one feels so sad and one wants to even take up euthanasia and end the suffering. The same body, which till now I thought I am. Now I don't want that body. I want to end the life because I don't want suffering. I don't want suffering for other people. So the condition of the body, when it changes, suddenly our idea of it also changes. Now that when one understands deeply that what am I holding on to, when it was said that deham darudhya dhritva, graham darudhya dhritva, one is holding on to this body as though it is this log of wood and one wants to cross. But actually it is like this. And this is the cause of forgetting the self. And so it is that it is visualization of this will bring a deep vairagya. Every day one can spend even just 2 minutes or 3 minutes mentally just visualize and disintegrate all the parts of the body. Separate the parts of the body. Blood, vessel, whatever, muscles and skin and fat and marrow. Separate them, 7 buckets. Saptadhatu they are. Development of vairagya will happen. One can practice that for a week or 10 days and see how it makes a difference. One will actually then start treating the body just as one more tool. So continuing ahead, he says, Panchikritebhyo bhutebhyah stulebhyah purva karmana samutpannamidam sthulam bhogayatanamaatmanah avastha jagarastasya sthularthanubhavo yataha. Little more detailed analysis of this body. Panchikritebhyo bhutebhyah. Now this body is made up of 5 elements which are grossified. The Panchikarana process. Sthulebhya purva karmana. It is a gross manifestation. And how did we get this human body? Purva karmana. So first human body one attains by the push of nature, evolution. But after that, it is the choice, how we act. And generally it is said when the punya and papa are almost at equal level, when they are ready to give result, then the human body is attained. Purva karmana. If punya is more than papa, then a person attains higher realms. Devalok, those type of realms. If papa is more than punya, one goes to the lower realms. So this body, human body is got because of karma. It is not by accident or by randomness. Specifically by one's own karma. Whatever good karmas I have done in the past, because of which I require a human body to experience, then the human body is got. Purva karmana. Samutpannamidam sthulam. This body is made up of these 5 elements. Samutpannam. And it is gross because it is visible. Sthula is that which is tangible, which is visible. Sukshma is that which is invisible. And what is it? Bhoga ayatanam. It is an instrument for the self to experience this world of objects and the karmas. Avastha jagaras tasya. This body perceives the world of objects in this waking state. Avastha jagaras tasya sthularthanubhavo yataha. So the waking state is defined here as when we experience the world of objects through this gross body. Now that is another fascinating thing. How delusion works. I am aware of this gross body only in one state, which is the waking state. Dream state, deep state, I am not aware of the gross body. But still I think I am equal to this body, and without the body I don't have existence. That is called moha, wrong notion. It's just one tool, equipment available for sadhana, and it is there in the waking state. We experience it fully. In the dream and deep sleep, it is existing, but practically we have no experience of that. Mind is functioning through that, dream is happening. But we are not aware of the gross body. The karma is keeping this body alive. And as soon as that karma is over, that person will drop the body. Whether in the waking state or in the dream or deep sleep, one will drop the body when karma is over. And so it is that one has to understand that this body is just there in one state. Suppose I am sleeping for 8 hours in a day. That means 1/3 of my existence is independent of this body, or at least independent of the body identification, so to say. So I am not this body is understood even from this, that it is made up of 5 elements. It is experienced in mainly in the waking state. It is gross, tangible, can be seen outside. Is the result of past karmas. It will be sustained as long as karma lasts. At the moment karma is over, the body will drop. So how is this body me? This body is just one more tool. So that's where we stop for today. Any questions? You are welcome.
Namaste Swamiji. This avastha jagaras tasya stula artha anubhava yatha. It's with the help of the gross body that the Atma experiences the waking state. Is that what it means?
No. Yeah. So the general meaning is this, that the waking state is experienced by us through the body. Atma does not experience anything actually. It is the jiva who experiences. So the word used is jagaras tasya. No? So tasya is dehasya. Avastha jagaras tasya.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Just coming back to that.
The delusion destroy attitude that I am super, then internal conflict.
Your voice is not audible.
For delusion, you said that it destroys the attitude that I am seeker. Then internal conflict also gets destroyed. Another two I missed out. I'm sorry. Hello. Hariom.
See, I don't have, so I will try and remember, because I speak, I reflect on the moment. Now I don't have notes of that. So first thing it destroys, I think I spoke, is inspiration, it destroys. Second, determination. Third is a conflict-free mind. And fourth is the very seeking. I think that's what I covered. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
So in this 88th verse, when he's saying Jagarastasya, Avastha Jagarastasya, Stularthanubhavo Yataha, the word Atmanaha also is in that same case as Tasya. Tasya Atmanaha Jagaraha Tasya Avastha, right? So yes, the state in which the self perceives the world of objects is the waking condition, right? So we can say that the Atma, but here when we say the word Atma, we should understand the Atma as the conditioned self, because the pure Atma doesn't go through anything.
Thank you so much.
So this is the Jiva Atma only. So that's where sometimes the word Atma can be indicating the Jivatma and not the Supreme Atma, which is Akarta Abhokta. So we continue tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरिः ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम।